Why, hello there, my fall enthusiasts. Today I'm going to show you how to make these adorable Pinecone Mice, this grungy fabric apple pie, some rustic candy corn banner, some tiered tray pumpkin pie banner. I made this last year. It's literally, I just went on my Cricut and printed out a stencil and painted and just gave it some buttons. And I'm going to show you how to apply the sticks so they'll stay on these pumpkins that I made. I made many of them last year, and you can use mine as inspiration. I used a lot with beads and my Cricut. I went and just cut out stencils and painted. I did all different types of looks. Added sunflowers, cut up my garland for leaves. I made small ones, big ones, horizontal, vertical, and I gave a makeover to my wreath. But first up, let me show you these adorable Pinecone Mice. I'm starting out, I got some Jingle Bells from Dollar Tree, and these are scented pine cones that I had from Christmas last year. And all you need to do is take and cut 2 pieces of that pine cone as the ears. And I'm going to use this little Jingle Bell here. Well, it's actually the bigger of the sizes. And apply my hot glue to the back. And I'm just going to stick on both of his ears. I got this wonderful idea from my girl Martha Stewart, only she did hers laying down and her heads were acorns. But I figured I'm going to add my own twist. So, once I get his ears on, I just take my hot glue gun and glue the head on. Now for a tail, here's a method to make a tail. This is just yarn, and I just took my pencil and wrapped it around. And I'm just going to go in and just paint the yarn with some Mod Podge. And I literally just let it sit for like 20 minutes and it dried. And you'll see here coming up later how it turns out. So I just take my acrylic paint, give him a little nose like so. And I gave the inner parts of his ears. I end up going in on with 2 of them with my white because I didn't want pink. And yeah. And my tails are a little different, but let me show you here how I did his whiskers. I just took my string and folded it a couple times to make it nice and small. And then once I got it to the size that I wanted it, I just took my scissors and threw them little loops and cut. And then I took a piece of string and just knotted it together to tie them together. And then I'll just go in and hot glue those on as well. I decided to go in with my smaller Jingle Bells, and I had 2 front paws and 2 legs. And I went in and for the one, I grunged them up with some nutmeg and Mod Podge. Now let me show you how to get these sticks to stick to these faux pumpkins. You can see this one I had hanging last year, and that's how I hang my stuff with my staple gun and string. For that distress look, I stained both sides of this. And once that stain dried, I just went over it with a coat of my orange paint. And that naturally gave me this distress look. So what I'm going to do is you want your stick to have a nice flat base. And I'm just going to go in with my E6000 here. Put a nice little glob. And then I put a lot of hot glue here on the end of my stick. So I can get that instant hold. So it will stick. And that leaf around it is just from my fall garland. And yes, hold it for at least 30 seconds at the minimum. And then what I'm going to do to make it easier on me so I don't got to hold this all day is just go in and put some hot glue behind my leaves and firmly press down on each of the leaves. And that's going to help pull that stick a little forward. And I'm going to let it dry up against my little tray here, standing straight up. In 24 hours, it should be cured and hardened. Here's another one I made. Again, just on my Cricut. I just went in, made a stencil, and pimped it out. Let me show you this cute rustic candy corn. So on my muslin fabric, I just took with a piece of cardboard and made a triangle. and I folded my fabric so I would be able to have 4 pieces cut out. And I just traced it and I cut it out. And since some of mine were stuck together when I cut it, I just went in and cut those 2 pieces to separate them and ripped it. And mine's a little jaggedy, but that's what I wanted. So for my orange color here, I just go with my vermilion, a little drop of burnt umber, mix it together, and I'm going to paint the center of my candy corn, a big chunk of it basically. Just leaving enough room for the white at the tip and the yellow at the base. Then once I got all my orange, if they were dry enough, I went in with my yellow. And this is canary yellow I used. It's a lighter shade. I outlined them all with burnt umber. And I went in with my stencil brush and gave them a little bit of white to separate the yellow and the orange. And I also painted the tips with white, just to kind of give it a more blended, cooler look, even though it was already white muslin fabric. I just wanted it to really stand out more. See the difference? And then what I do is I go in with my burnt umber and take mainly all the paint off on my paper towel, so there's barely any on my brush, and just give it a nice dry brush around the whole thing, just to give it that nice old crusty look. So once they were dry, I used my Cricut weeding tool here, poked 2 holes on this. I just eyeballed it. I'm not sure they're straight across, but it worked. And what I did is my string was thin enough, I just fished it through, just like that with my weeding tool. And I went opposite ways on each candy corn. I went over on the one and then under the other, if you see what I mean. Then I just tied a knot at the ends on each of them, kind of creating a loop, like that. Here's a more up-close shot of them, and this is going to be super cute for fall. So for the pumpkin pie garland, same exact concept. I painted it orange, but this time I just painted the top. I had a tannish color for the crust, and I did the same with the burnt umber with my dry brushing. Only this time, I went in with my caulking, my Mod Podge, and acrylic paint to make my fake ice or whipped cream dollops on them. And if you don't got an icing bag and tips, you can just use a sandwich bag and snip the tip. And my thing exploded and they totally look like sperm cells. Oh geez. So let me show you here a quick little surprise. Foam magnets that I made last year. And all I did was I took a piece of foam. I just cut it into a triangle. And it depends what foam you use. Like this one's messy. And I totally didn't file it until I painted it. And I was like, oh snap. So I went in and I filed it with a nail filer. Got the sides nice and smooth. I just painted it orange and then did my crust. And then I outlined it in burnt umber. Gave it that dollop of the caulking mixture with the Mod Podge and white acrylic paint. And a little sprinkle of cinnamon on top. And of course glued my magnet to it. So let me show you this cute, adorable fabric pie. So these are about 1 inch thick strips. And here I have a pie pan. I coffee grunched mine. And I got some stuffing here from an old pillow. And I had 10 strips in total, if I didn't say that. So I just take and stuff it however fat I want it, thick, chunky. And if I had a whole piece of muslin fabric, you wouldn't have to piece it. I just wanted to cover the foam or the fluffing from showing. So once I did that, then I just laid down my strips. One going horizontal and the other vertical. Just like that. I did not glue it down just yet. I do that at the end. I'm just making sure it's all sized out right here. And then once I have it just setting on it, I go around and cut some of the excess length off. And it's okay if a little hung over because I cover it with my pie crust in the end. And it makes it easier to glue it down. So, once you get her all situated here, and I'll cut all to the shape, I then glued them ends down onto the silver lining of that tray. And here for my crust, I'm going to show you, I used longer strips of my muslin coffee stain fabric, coffee grunged, and each time I did it, I would skip like a ½ inch or an inch and put a dollop of hot glue and then make like a U shape with my fabric and then press it down like that. I'll let you just keep watching in case you have no idea what I just said. It's kind of hard to explain, but like that. And I actually doubled mine around the pie. I did 2 layers, but do it however you think looks good. And now is when I go in and hot glue down pieces here on top of my pie. And to embellish it, I got some of that pipberry, and I wanted to include this apple that I cut out of fabric. So I Mod Podged a piece of that muslin fabric on it and just wrote apple in my Sharpie. And then I finish her off with some dry brushing of my burnt umber acrylic paint, just in some certain spots to make her look extra grungy. And this is precious. I love this. Definitely a favorite. So if you remember this from my spring video, that was the truck I got from Dollar Tree that I just painted. So what I did is I repainted it, and I took apart some of my old fall garland, added a piece of muslin fabric, and wrote Sunny's Flowers because I wanted it to have sunflowers on it. And I just thought that was a cute name to call the truck. Here's another look at what we all made. I did my Pinecone Mice. Like I said, Martha Stewart did hers laying down with acorns as the head. And then we did our fabric pie. We got our garland, the corn and the pie kind, and all my different pumpkins I've made. Use them for inspiration if you want something easy to do. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day, and I'll see you on the next one.